All right. Hi everybody. This is Dale Phillips and
Dale T. Phillips,
Dale
please.
T. Phillips. And Dale has written numerous books. He's written very books that are helpful to authors in terms of selling and promoting. He's also a successful fiction writer as well. And we have him coming to talk to us and talk to our group because he is an expert on how to produce and put out an audiobook at no cost. So, Dale, why don't you tell us how to do it?
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I met Tim. We went to this show, and there wasn't a lot of people involved, so I didn't give the presentation I was going to give, which is about independent publishing. So Tim gets up and he starts doing my speech, and so I was like, well, I'm going to be a little bit of a jerk here because he's in my wheelhouse. And then afterwards, I went up and apologized, and we started talking, and well, here we are. And he goes, audiobooks? Oh, my people would love to hear about that. And yes, when I was starting my writing journey, I put out a short book as an experiment, How to Improve Your Interviewing Skills. And after reading many blogs, talking to many writers, and seeing where the industry was going, I saw that audiobooks back in 2010, 2011 was a very growing market. They were starting to pick up more and more, and they were being ignored by much of traditional publishing and many writers. And I said, well, let's see how it can be. I joined the ACX program, which is the production arm of audible.com, which, if you know, on your Amazon page, all your formats come up. They have the print version, the ebook version, and the audio version if you've got them all out, and they're all there listed. So people can choose the format which they like. This is fabulous because when I explored this program, I found out that narrators, potential narrators, will audition for you. You post your project with an audition piece, and they will read it, and you get to choose from them which person you'd like to narrate your book. Now, here's the thing. I do have some narration talent, things like that, but I worked out the math. In the time it takes me to narrate and produce a quality book for sale, I could write another book. So it's a time factor. It's always the writer's question. WIBBOW, would I be better off writing? I determined for myself, yes, I would. Although I'd love to do mine if I had infinite time, and I don't. So I looked at this program and said, wait a minute, how much is this going to cost? They have options. You can pay a narrator. Narrators go for $100 to $200 a finished hour, or you can do a royalty share option. Royalty share means when the book is produced, ACX takes 60% of the sale price, which they set for the distribution and handling all the financials of your book. You get 20%, the narrator gets 20%. So it's a royalty split on anything you make it from there. The nice thing is that these narrators are spending a lot of their time, and their time is worth money, to do your book. So they want a return on it. So it's up to you and them to push the book after the fact to get that out so that everybody will make money. Now, that little experiment with that, 40-page interviewing book turned out great because it sold over 500 copies. And I do no promotion. It just keeps, even now when it's a little out of date because it was written before COVID, we still get sales on it. And most of the sales have come through audio. So you never know what's going to take off. And the nice thing is, doing a book in audio gives you many different advantages. A lot of times, if people don't have audio, people say, I don't have time to read. So I go, well, do you have time to listen? Because when I was still commuting, I put a lot of audiobooks in while I was driving in the car. So I'm not wasting time. I'm absorbing a lot more material than I could ever read. Also, many book reviewers are way backed up. Their to be reviewed list is like hundreds of books long. Audio reviewers have a much shorter list. So if you locate some audio reviewers, you can get reviews a lot quicker and a lot more of them than you can with print or ebook. So there's a big advantage. They can also rate your book, so you get more ratings for your book, which all add up on Amazon. Also, they give you free codes that you can give away to reviewers to reward people. It's an extra, and it doesn't cost you anything. So if somebody buys a nice print copy of your book or several, you can go, hey, that's a great thing. Let me give you a little extra. I'm going to send you a code for a free audiobook version of this. And they're like, oh, that would be great. So there are many, many advantages here. We have, yes, Amazon does allow to record to Audible from Tim.
So actually, when I republish this, they won't see the question. So my question was, if you decide, you say you already have a book out and it's not published through Amazon's arm of publishing, do they allow you to do the audio version through them, or do you have to basically package everything through their publishing company?
This is why a lot of people have issues with Amazon, but sure, you can just do the audio version. Hey, what's wrong with that? And again, I have like over 28 books out on audio, which is the great thing, is that I've been fortunate to find good narrators to do each of the books. And I don't do a lot of promotion on that because I'm so busy with many other things. But again, some things sell, and every month I get money from Audible. Boom, it comes in every month. It's passive income. Once you set up that income stream, you can promote, obviously, and you can do as much as you want to push that book, to market it, to promote it. But again, once the book is out there, it's great. Now, read your terms of service. Go ahead.
How easy is it to find all of the buttons and the pieces to do this? I mean, it sounds easy to do it, but in terms of to navigate around Amazon's site, what do you do?
Piece of cake. Go to acx.com. They have an introductory little piece that tells you how to do it all. And that's what I did. I just went on and go, oh, okay, this is what you do. This is how to post up your project. This is how to make it sound attractive. I have X number of social media followers. I sell X number of books. I do this kind of promotion. Something to attract a potential narrator to go, oh, I think I will. Yeah, no selfies, please, Tim. I will put out a good book, and with a good narrator, this book could sell. That's what you want, to make it worth their time. Now, the nice thing is that you have total control over the audiobook. Now, I know a professional writer from Maine, Paul Dwaran, and I listened to one of his books, very popular writer, and yet his audiobook, the narrator couldn't pronounce a single place name in Maine where the book is set. Now, have you ever listened to something and you ground your teeth through the entire thing? Yeah, that was it. And I saw him afterwards at a conference. I said, Paul, what's the story? Your narrator sucked. And he kind of, puts his toe in the sand and says, well, I didn't have any control of it. I go, Paul, I get total control over my narrators and how they pronounce stuff in my books. Which, again, another point in your favor, because you are vetting the files as they go. You arrange a schedule. You do a 15-minute, after the audition, after you've arranged everything, you say, okay, give me the first 15 minutes, or give me a 15-minute segment, to make sure they're on the right track. That's one of your milestones. And after they do that, you go, great. When they're finished, they send you the finished files. You vet them file by file, whatever chapters or sections, however you want to do it. And then when you're done, ACX checks it for quality control, because this is a product going out for sale. So you get 2 levels of vetting on things to make sure that things are right. This is where you correct any mistakes in anything when you're going through it, to make sure that the book comes out just right. And it's wonderful, because how fast is the turnaround? Okay, so it all depends on your schedule. You're setting the schedule. When you find a narrator and you say, great, I accept you as my narrator, let's create a schedule. You give them maybe a month for the first 15 minutes, if you want, 3 to 4 weeks. And then you give them 2 to 3 months, say, to finish the entire book. So that's pretty good. And then when they're done, they send you a note. Go ahead and vet the files. You can do that in a day. You send it back to ACX. They take about 3 days, let's say, and boom, your book is up. So within 4 months of getting your book out in print and ebook, you have an audiobook as well. Now, here's the great thing, because I was on a panel at Killer Nashville last year, and this person next to me who had his book out, he says, well, I spent $2,000 to get my book out in audio. And I kind of blinked and thought to myself, well, gee, I don't have $60,000 to spend for mine, but I got mine done for free and I get money back. It would take a while to recoup that money, I will tell you, from audiobooks. However, if you're putting it out for free, you can make profit the first month, which is great. Okay, Tim's got some other questions. Placeholder, what happens if you don't like the final project? How do you not like it because you have vetted it beforehand?
Okay.
When they send you the files, you go through file by file, you listen. If you want any corrections, you send it back to the narrator. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the incorrect word. You missed a sentence, you did this. Until you're satisfied, that project does not go to ACX. But when you're satisfied, it does. And then when they put it out, it's just what you vetted. So if you're not satisfied, you did something wrong. Sorry.
So ACX will give you like a ISBN equivalent.
You do not need ISBNs for anything except print copies of books. You don't need them. You just simply don't need them. ISBNs are a scam, because there's one company in the United States that has a monopoly on all they are is registration numbers, and independent writers have to pay a lot of money to get ISBNs, and you don't even need them. Amazon gives you ASINs, which is a registration number, for free. And publishing platforms will even give you their version of an ISBN number if you really want to tack one on there. Smashwords, Draft to Digital, Amazon KDP, when you're publishing with them, they'll give you an ISBN, and people say, well, it's not the real ISBN. No, and I didn't have to pay $50 for it either.
It's also,
but if you want to spend money on an ISBN, which is totally unnecessary, go ahead. I mean, this is
Lightning Source, which is the arm of the distributor, not Lightning Source,
Ingram's.
Yeah, Ingram's now does the free ISBN as well. Yeah. So
because they realize that it's really silly. It's this identification number. You can use any identification number, which you can use Amazon's ASIN, or you don't even have to have one. But it does make it easier for libraries to find. But are libraries going to get your ebook without any knowledge, foreknowledge of it? Now, I found a way to get some ebooks and some audiobooks into libraries, but that's another story. But it can be done, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, a little thing that I've talked to this group about, if you're signing a contract with a small press or a publisher, if they don't want to do an audiobook, make sure the contract says all derivative products such as film, audiobooks, etc., are spelled out in your contract, that you're the owner and can put it out. The other thing too is, if it's not in the contract, make sure your publisher puts it in writing. Say, hey, I would like to do an audiobook. It doesn't say that in the contract. Can I do it? And if they say no, you ask them, well, then you do it, because I want it done. And if they say it's all yours, you can do it, well, then go ahead, but get it in writing just in case.
Folks, this is the number one thing that Timothy brings up. Always, always, always read and understand your contracts. These are forever. You say, well, the person I'm dealing with is nice. If that person leaves, you get somebody who's not nice who goes, well, I'm going to enforce this and this in the contract. You go, well, that wasn't originally planned. And they go, too bad. It's in writing and it's in here. So always, always read and understand everything in your contract. Now, the thing is, traditional publishers want rights grabs, which means they want all the rights. They want the print, they want the ebook, they want the audio, even if they're not exercising them. It costs them money because they don't use ACX. They use, Findaway, or they use any of these other ones, Blackstone Audio, any of these companies, which cost money. And so if the company does not think that ebook, that audiobook is going to sell enough, they won't produce one. I've got so many traditional friends who don't have their books out in audio. And I'm like, please talk to your publisher. Talk try to get those rights out. And they say, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. The reason traditional publishing does this is because they don't want to spend money unless they're going to get an expectation of making it back. So they're hoping that author hits it big, in which case then they will put out the audiobook and make the money off it. However, you don't have to wait for that. This is another advantage of being independent. Control, all the money goes to you, your time frame, your scale, your vetting, everything is under your control. I believe in having control of your art. We spend a lot of time and a lot of our life pouring ourselves onto these pages. Why shouldn't we be the ones to determine how it gets out, where it gets out, how much we get back for it?
Have you used the same narrator for various books? Can you request the same narrator? Can you stay in contact with the same narrator?
Yes, absolutely. Because during the process, you can be in constant contact with the narrator. They allow through ACX to send messages. You can even give them your private email and go off the grid if you want. But yes, that's absolutely the way. When I was first starting out, we found a good narrator and I used them for like 5 or 6 books. And that was very useful because I could go back and say, hey, Fred, I got a new one. You want to do that one? Sure, great, let's do that. There are audiobook awards that you can submit your book for to try to get more notoriety, more awards, more profile for that book too. Again, it really expands the brand of what you're doing with your book by 25% or more, which is not insignificant, folks. I mean, absolutely. Yep, Timothy is saying all derivative products owned by author. If your publisher doesn't do audio, get it in writing that you can do it. Absolutely. And even if you sign a contract where that has not been stated, see if you can go back to the publisher and renegotiate. Sometimes there are sunset clauses that the publishers put in that after X many years that the book isn't selling X copies, you can get the rights back. But you can always ask. Ask nicely, start nice, ask and make the case for it. It's like, I think this would boost the profile of my print book if you let me do this and get this out. Make it so it's to their benefit, not just yours.
Yeah, most good contracts will also revert the rights back to you after X amount of years, no matter how much it's selling. So that's
not all of them. Traditional does not like that because they know the value of intellectual property and they want to hold on to it because you can hit 20 years later. And if that's in their bank, they get to make money off it. So they don't want to give it up unless you know how to negotiate and spell that out. There are some authors now that are making more off their books than they did when they originally published back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Because something hits, something catches fire, becomes the new fad. They've become famous by putting another 20 books out. Boom. And they're making way more than they were when the book first came out. You got to understand when over half of traditionally published books don't sell more than a dozen or 2 copies, and over 90% don't sell more than 200 to 1,000, you are entering a lottery where you're the loser. You're almost guaranteed to lose. So independent, you can just keep promoting that book year after year. You can change the covers, you can add new content, do a new edition, you can make a sale, you can bundle it, you can put it with some other writers in a box set. All of these things to increase your sales, which you can't do if you're traditional. I can do book swaps with authors like Timothy. Great, here's a book. You give me a book. We do reviews. We can connect and start doing it. Traditional published authors say, oh, I'm sorry, I have to get full price for this. I'm like, well, I'm not going to give you $30 for your hardcover book. I'm sorry. So they lose out on everything. Whereas the independents are like, great, now I've got another opportunity to connect and promote and market.
Yeah, I work with a lot of small press, which it's traditional, but it's not the big one. So I do have a lot of negotiating advantage there because usually they're small shops. They don't have time to put out the audiobooks. They're not interested in the screenplays, even if they're not interested in the rights to the screenplays, nor are any of their books being made into screenplays. So I've been able to negotiate with a small press publisher saying, look, one of my novels is getting some interest and I want, that's the whole all derivative products in the original contract. It's
Absolutely.
mine.
Stage play. I mean, what if somebody wants to do a stage reading or a full play version from your book and you don't have that clause in there, and the company says, well, no, that's under our auspice and they got to give us money for that. And or film rights or streaming rights to television. I mean, nobody has to go through another agent to get to you for that. I've known some writers and they say, my agent didn't even bring me the option to do that because it wasn't enough money for them. But you know, if you're making $1,000, you're like, well, I'll take the $1,000. But if the agent says, I got to work for 40 hours to make $150, nah, not worth it. So they don't even tell you about that sometimes. And don't think that it's only the bad agents to do that. Christine Catherine Rush, one of the best independent writers now, had been traditional, had been with some of the top agents in the business, and had them do illegal things and screw her over. And she's like, you would not believe the things. And legally, I can't even tell you some of the things, but they were just crooks. An agent, you know, Dean Wesley Smith, who is her husband, says, giving an agent 15% for your work that you took years to write is kind of like giving a piece of your house to the person who mows your lawn. I love that quote. It's, you know, they make a couple of phone calls to get a deal and they send something over and great, it goes through. But they're the ones vetting the contract, but they don't have a lawyer, an attorney license. They are giving you legal advice without the license to do so. They're actually committing a crime. They're like, oh yeah, well, I know contracts. Well, maybe you do, but it's not legal for you to do so. To give financial advice which benefits you to get you to sign a contract. It might be a lousy contract, but this is why I'm always saying, read those contracts, because this is a biz, folks, where if you hit it big, the vultures will circle and they'll come after you.
So we've branched into contracts and we've talked about audiobooks. Does anybody have any questions about audiobooks and contracts now?
Yep. There are other companies now coming up to do audiobooks, and they're giving Amazon some competition, which is great. I always believe in competition. And I don't say this is the thing now and forever. I say right now, this is really working for me, and I think it can work for other authors a lot. And so I'm always touting, you know, how to do it and why you should do it, and do it now. I go after, there's a professional writer I know, Kate Flora, and I've been bugging her for a couple of years to get her books out in audio because they're excellent books. And she's just like, well, yeah.
Do the audiobooks that you record through Amazon ACX, do they become available through Apple or Spotify, or is it just Amazon just puts
Amazon total. Amazon likes their exclusive. So yeah, it doesn't go out to others, but now that's why the others are coming up in competition, because they're like, they're nibbling away at the edges and seeing what they can get out of that piece, because they know Amazon's the big dog and they've got the market share. So they're coming after that. And again, keep your eyes peeled, folks, because in this business, things are always changing rapidly. I mean, not even year by year, month by month. I mean, things are happening. So be aware of what's going on. Be aware of what you can do, what you can experiment with, and see what the return on investment is. The nice thing is there's no failure. If something doesn't work, change.
What do you do to keep up? There are trade magazines you look
Oh
at?
boy. Yeah, this is part of the thing why I don't get as much writing done, because keeping up. I talk to other writers in person, with email, over the internet. I belong to professional writers groups, Mystery Writers of America, Sisters in Crime. I belong to a lot of other writer organizations, New England Horror Writers, New Hampshire Writers Project, Maine, the Independent Publishers of New England, Massachusetts. I work with the Cape Cod Writing Center. I work with local groups, writing groups. I also go to conferences and talk to writers. I study craft books. I study online blogs. I study publishing news. The Passive Voice is a blog from an attorney about publishing and writing news, and I recommend everybody read that, because there's so many subjects, and he posts half a dozen things a day, and it's a great way to keep up. It's the shorthand to go through. And when you do these, go to these sites and blogs and authors, see what they're reading, see what they're paying attention to, and follow those. That's the way to get that network out very fast and get a lot of information and screen and filter quickly to get the most valuable stuff in the shortest time.
Any questions? Leanne?
Regarding all of that, which are great resources, how did you get most of those? Like I'm part of a lot of LinkedIn groups, and that gives you like an instant access when I do that. But so how did you formulate just
Great
you know,
question. LinkedIn is one great. That's one social avenue. Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads. You go to conferences, you talk to people, and they go, "Oh, have you joined the Sisters in Crime?" Well, I'm a male, and so for 2 years I said, I don't want to be part of something that I'm not welcome at. And they're like, "Oh, no, please come in, come in." Finally, they convinced me, and I did, and it was a great career boost. And you get so much information from just the newsletters from these organizations, from the other writers, and from the conferences, and it grows from there. Leanne, that's the great thing, is this stuff explodes exponentially when you start doing it, and you're like, wow, how will I keep up with all of it? Find the channels which work for you and pursue
yeah, that's
those.
like, because and then I also feel guilty for not like, I've got like 3,300 contacts on my LinkedIn from years of different things, but sometimes I feel guilty for not chiming in on these other writing sites that are all posting, because I'm so overwhelmed with all my shit.
Please stop feeling guilty. Nobody can do it all everywhere. We can't save the world, okay? But we can work with our own little corner.
So with
Okay?
all these new things coming out daily, weekly, monthly, you've got this book, How to Be a Successful Indie Writer.
Yes.
Do you have to update it often, or do you update it often?
Well, it just came out last year, and I was at the main crime wave, and a professional author, Julia Spencer Fleming, came up and said, well, because she had a question during the talk, and she said, "How'd you come to write this book?" And I look at her and I go, 20 years of research. Because people ask the same questions over and over. How do I do this? Well, what's the best path? What do you expect? Oh, what's involved? What? And I said, oh, man, people really need to know this. So I put it all together in section by section of, building your foundation, how to set things up, arrange yourself as a business, how to continue to write the book, and then how to promote and market the book. And then the next book was, well, how do I sell it? I'm like, well, yeah, that's the follow-up. So yes, I have not updated it yet. I probably will get around to it this coming year. Now, with time on my hands, I'll be able to spend more time updating my older books with redo the covers, check out the font size. I used to put very tiny, like 11-point font, and older readers would say, I can't read that. So great, I've got to go through and increase the font size on the older books to get something bigger, which will change the page count, which will change the size of the spine on the cover. And I also want to put more book covers of other books on my covers that I didn't have in the past. So yes, it is as much as you want to do. So if you can't be on every LinkedIn site, that's fine. There's thousands of them. You can't be on every Facebook, every Goodreads site. You can't do it all. Don't feel guilty. It's a hamster wheel. The faster you run, the faster you have to run just to stay in the same place. Mm-hmm. Do what gives you joy. Your art is most important. Do the writing. The writing, getting it down, your story on paper, that's the most important. Next, if you want to publish that, there are steps you can do with that book and many, many others on how to do that, how to get that book out to your advantage into the world. And again, audiobook is one arm of it, which I think can increase your sales, increase your profit, and make you much happier.
You ready for a softball question?
Oh,
Dale, here's the pitch. Why do you like the term indie publisher versus self-published?
Here, why? Because self-publishing is a pejorative term that they used to use. Oh, you're just doing this all by yourself, so it can't be any good. How about my cover designer? How about my editor? How about my beta readers? How about my formatters? How about the people who help me distribute and market and promote the book? Does that sound like self? I get to choose my team. Now, if you sign with a traditional publisher, they give you a team. They give you an editor who might suck. That might be the 25-year-old with an MFA who doesn't know anything about your genre, about the publishing biz, or about how to edit. You might get the suckiest book cover ever, which is one of the reasons I went indie, because Barry Eisler back in 2011 is a best-selling thriller writer, ex-spy, tremendous guy, tremendous writer. His publisher gave him a green garage door for the cover of a thriller. the most boring, insipid, non-sellable cover ever. He begged with them to change it. He said, "This is a thriller. A garage door does not sell a thriller." They refused. He took out a full-page ad on the New York Times to protest this, and he told his publishers to take a hike. He turned down $500,000 for a 2-book deal to go indie and to find another path. And I looked at that when I was at that conference, and I said, he's my hero. For a man to take that kind of a leap, and that was still in 2011 when it was just starting to become the norm that people could actually make money at this and do better. And I said, if he can do this, why can't I?
So
Because I do not want a green garage door on my covers. I want the covers I want, the content I want, the price I want, the distribution channels I want. It's my team that I get to choose, not somebody else's team that they give you.
Now, there's a famous writer that he got early on the electronic before there was even Kindle. He got
Joe Conrath?
No, he did a electronic book through the old e-reader. It's the #1 best-selling author, and you studied under Stephen King. What was it like to study under Stephen King?
That was the greatest experience of my writing life, and I've had some really fantastic ones. Meeting Harlan Ellison being, the second, right behind there. But Stephen King came back to the college he graduated from, the University of Maine at Orono, and I was there as a junior. And when I found that out, it was 1978, and he wasn't the megastar he is now, but he'd had some excellent books, and he was a star. It was obvious. I went in and took the classes I could from him, English classes, writing seminars. I got to sit in the man's living room while he edited my story. I mean, that was the coolest thing on earth. He is the most down-to-earth, plain-spoken man, but he's passionate about the craft of writing. After 50-plus years, he still writes every day. He's still putting out books. He still has that many ideas to come out. And he does experimentation, with the screenplays, with the ebooks. You're right, that one that was only on an ebook platform. He's not afraid to experiment. And he can do whatever he wants. He could publish the phone book now, and it would be great. And that's the thing, folks. Having control. What? Do people use phone books anymore? I know, right?
Hold on, hold on. I'm getting paged on my pager now, Dale.
Oh yeah. 1933 called, and they want their year back. Yeah, but no, he is absolutely encyclopedic knowledge of writing in all genres.
Right,
and
so
he inspires you with the love of the craft. Yes, Lorraine has it.
Yeah, Leanne has another
Leanne,
question.
sorry. The print is so tiny there. Yeah, you're right.
I live in a small town in Maine. That's why I have my earmuffs
Yeah,
on
so
right now.
where in Maine? Yeah.
I live in Warren, which is right next to Thomaston and Rockland.
No, you wouldn't have internet service there. No, I'm sorry, you're lying.
No, I do. It's 4,300 people, but I'm right next to it. But love Stephen King. But that's why I've got my earmuffs on, because it's chilly here.
Yeah, he would be writing his books about all the places in Maine I was living, and I got a little spooked by that. And so I went to Mohonk Mountain House to work at the resort, and then he wrote Thinner, and guess where he set a scene there? Yeah.
And all that. Yeah. So but you know what? Yeah, I would love to meet him actually, Bangor. But so I'm questioning self-publishing versus indie. Is indie, I mean, I know you can say it, but is it like a copyright? Because I know it's for film.
Indie is short for independent, and that means independent means I am not with a traditional publisher. You can be hybrid.
I do PR, so I like the word indie better than independent. I was just wondering if
indie's way better. It sounds cooler too. Indie film, indie music, absolutely.
But I was just wondering if I say it, but if you do a film and you don't really work with the indie, you're just using it as a description of the type of independent, will that get you in trouble? I really don't care about getting in trouble.
Any film outside of the studio system is an indie film.
Okay.
If you're going with a small production company, it's still indie. It's what is happening in writing now is what happened to music in the 90s. In the past, everyone who wanted to be successful had to go through a big record company. Right. And they had to sign these ridiculous contracts which restricted everything they could do, and the company would tell them what to produce, how to produce, when to produce, and you must tour and you must do this, and it was ridiculous. So many of them lost careers, had terrible issues with substance abuse because of The schedule, because they had no control of their art, the bands would break up after 2 albums, all of this. The indie music scene came along in the 90s and changed everything. People could sell their own CDs, make them at home, sell them at their concerts, sell them on the road, book out all their shows independently, and make a living at it and have control over what they did. And they had much longer and better careers and much happier and fewer deaths from overdose and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. So that clarifies. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. That's a term everybody can use, and always use it. Always correct people. When they say self, just gently say, I'm sorry. The better term is indie, because that's a better description of what we do. It's not you, putting everything in your mad laboratory as a scientist in your basement. It's you working with a professional team to produce the best professional package of a book you can possibly do.
All right, so let's move on to 87 ways to sell more books. Now, we all know about getting a social media presence. We all know about doing appearances. Well, what are some of the 87 ways that people might not have thought of?
There are a number of things that sound really basic and simple and obvious, a few of those, but there's writers who don't do that. I'll go to a new show and I say, give me your business card. And I go, oh, I don't have any. I go, you're possibly missing an opportunity right there. You meet somebody from, say, Netflix or something, and you don't have a business card. It's like, you could lose that contact. I mean, I've been doing shows this fall and giving the card out and giving my promotional material out, which is a cut above other people's, and it makes the connection with libraries, bookstores, like Barnes and Noble. I'm starting to get in Barnes and Nobles now, and I'm like, woohoo, this is a big step, because in the past, they only dealt with traditional authors. They don't want to deal with a number of independents because it's harder bookkeeping. Some of these people can be real jerks when they go into a bookstore. That's one of the things in here. Don't be a jerk when you go into a bookstore. Hey, I'm a complete stranger, but I'm an author. Let me tell you what you can do for me. And the bookstore looks at him and goes, excuse me? It works both ways, because I went to one bookstore years ago and they said, oh, come back when you're famous. And I went, sure. Yeah, you'll be seeing me. Not. There are 87 ways, because everybody puts out 100 ways, 101 ways, 99 ways, whatever. And I'm like, 87 ways. And frankly, when I got to the end, I'm like, okay, that's all I can think of right now. I'm sure there are others, but this is the ones that I can actually talk about and push. Things like finding a street team is something I haven't done, which is an excellent way to get fans of yours. Find ways to turn them into super fans and get them to do a lot of the launch work for you and the promotion work for you and with you. You reward them. You give them specialized content. You can do this through Patreon. Have subscribers each month. You can give rewards. You can give specialized content. Here's your own published short story that not everybody's going to see. Only my team is going to see this. They help you with a book launch. They help you with promotion. They help by recommending you to others, going into libraries, recommending your book, going to book clubs, telling book clubs about your book, telling their friends about your book, going into bookstores and asking for your book. This is what a street team can do for you. And that's something very, very few authors are utilizing, including me now, because again, I have not had the time up till now to work on everything. Now, remember, in this 87 ways, I don't do everything, because I think that once you get into this, it's great, because if you follow these techniques, the more you do, the more you'll sell, guaranteed. However, if sales are your only measure of success in this business, you will never be happy enough. If you're number 2 on the bestseller list, you want to be number 1. If you're there for 4 weeks, you want to be on for 8 weeks. If you sell 1,000 copies, which is more than the norm, you want to sell 2,000, you want to sell 4,000, you want to sell 8,000. It never stops. And the thing is once you stop the marketing wheel, once you stop the promotion to like sit back and write the next book, the sales drop and you get depressed. You go, oh my God, that was spiking and going up and up and up. And then I stopped for a couple of weeks and boom, they fell right in the cellar again. And then people like tear their hair out and they go, oh, I got to do this all the time. Don't do everything all the time. Don't feel guilty about not doing it all the time. You're here as a writer. We didn't get into this business to be marketers. Most of us, I assume. We went into here to create art. And that art comes out on the page. And then how we get that out afterwards. People always despair about how many sales they've got. I go, okay, let me give you a a metaphor for success. You know the painter Vincent van Gogh? How many paintings did he sell in his lifetime? One. To his brother who owned a gallery. Did he stop painting? Did he stop when everybody said, Vincent, nobody wants to buy this crap? You're not selling anything. You're not really a painter. Look at that, Monet guy. Look at Monet. Look at all these other guys. They're painters because they sell paintings. You can't sell a damn painting. Did that stop him? No. Who's the best known, probably the most influential painter now recognized today? Vincent van Gogh. His paintings sell in the millions. Ignore what is currently popular for sales. Write your art. Write each book the book of the heart. Okay, don't follow a trend. Don't try to write the next sparkly vampire novel unless that's your jam. But do what makes you happy, not what sells the most. I put out a book and I don't really care if it's super commercial or not, because that's the book I needed to write at the time to get me to the next stage of the next book and the next part of my career. So not every book. Traditional publishing wants a home run with every book. They want to sell 40,000 plus copies of every single book that comes out. And that's not possible. Nobody hits a home run every time at the plate. Nobody. Maybe Superman could, but he doesn't exist. So the trouble is, very successful authors I know don't sell more than 20,000 because the companies don't promote them. That's their ceiling. And so they never get a chance to break out of that to become super popular.
I got a question for you. Now, you've written multiple books in the genre. So when you put out a new one, you do X, Y, and Z. What about someone who's putting out their first book? They need to promote and come up with some sort of brand or a group before the book comes out.
Right. They need to read that book because that's the book about how to set yourself up for success. There's a lot of work you can do in advance. How much work do you want to do versus how much do you want to write? The conventional wisdom is you spend the 6 months before your book comes out planning your sales campaign, your launch, everything. I mean, you can hold it in a public place with, 30 people in the room trying to buy a book, give refreshments, that kind of thing. You're hitting all the reviewers. You're doing a blog tour. You're trying to get on local media, the radio, television, newspapers, whatever. You can do all of that. And it tells you how to do all of that in those 2 books. But the thing is do what you want to do. If you're a shy person, you don't have to go on television. You don't have to do a lot of public appearances. Everything can be done over the internet now, and a lot quicker than anything. Joe Conrath, who I mentioned before, he was trying to break out of his sales record, and he went to 1,200 bookstores across the country. And he personally signed books. He gave them coasters. He talked with the staff. He worked. But even that did not push him into the superstar category. When he went online, and he can do more online with promotion there than he can do ever in person. If I go to a sales event for 4 hours and I sell 4 books, okay, that's great. And I love that. But some people say that's not enough. If you went online and were doing promotion for 4 hours, you might sell more books. But you're not having the same connection. You're not finding the same new fans. But if that's how you prefer to do it, go ahead. And I always say the great thing about being indie is you get to be the happiest and most successful person around because the success is on your terms, not anybody else's. And I know so many unhappy writers. Most of them are unhappy. They complain about their agent. They complain about the publisher. They complain about the book cover. They complain about their sales. They complain about the deadlines. On and on and on. I had one conference, and this top-selling writer, bestseller, he stalks in. Any of us would kill everybody else to get his sales numbers. He walks into this conference, and he's throwing a hissy fit because the bookstore down the street didn't have his display the way he wanted it. So he's pitching a fit in public. And I'm like, wow. If that's what success is, I want no part of it. I want to be happy. And success to me is finding new fans, making sales on my terms, and finding strangers to give me money in a world of infinite free entertainment. Holy cow. And information. Everything's available if they want to do the research, but most people don't want to do the research on anything. So that's why I wrote these books. It's like, okay, here, one book tells you all you need to know. There you go. Boom. I'm like, great. Thank you.
Do you have a big social media presence?
Big, Okay, what are your numbers for big?
Oh, you want numbers?
Well, you said big.
I would
Now,
say
big is a relative
more
term.
than 1,000, 2,000
Oh,
followers
hell
on
yeah,
any of
yeah,
the
yeah,
platforms.
absolutely. But it's not 100,000. But again, because I don't accept every invitation, I prune assiduously. So I'm not out there everywhere because I'm keeping things down to the level I want.
So do you accept when you prune, are you looking for readers rather than other writers or both?
It depends. Both. It depends. I will look at your profile. I'll see what you have posted. I see who you're connected with. I will see the kind of content and the kind of message that you put out to the world, your branding as a person. And I decide then if that's the kind of person I want to engage with. You should be very happy, Timothy, because I don't connect with everyone. But when we talked, there was a connection there. And I said, great, this is somebody I really want to know, somebody who's helping other writers with his writing groups. This is great. This is somebody that I think can help others, and maybe I can help him help others.
So what are some of the mistakes or rookie mistakes that people make with promotion? What shouldn't you do?
You don't go on Twitter and go, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Oh my God, no. You don't connect with strangers and go, here's what you can do for me. I want to connect with you and I want you to promote my book and review it and blurb it and then go and tell all your friends about that. People, even if I'm your friend, if you come up to me with a 500-page book and say, would you mind reviewing this for me? I go, okay, that's going to take about 10 hours of my time to get through that book. 10 hours of my time, that's worth at least $500 to me as a writer. Do I like this person enough to spend $500 on them? And I don't always say that I will do it because I've read so much of even friends and the writing is not to my taste. It's either not up to par. I don't like the characters. I don't like the book, the content, something about it. And I don't even want to finish the book. So I never tell people, oh, absolutely, I'll do this. I say, well, I've got a pretty long list. I can't guarantee anything, so you might not hear from me. Be nice. Don't be an asshole. Don't come back and say your book sucked. Man, you'll never be a writer. I don't want to crush people's dreams. If they ask for advice, I say, well, I will do manuscript critiques at $50 an hour, and I will tell you how to make your books better. I've done that for national conferences. I'm one of their best reviewers or critiquers because I give good, positive feedback that helps to turn that book into a commercial product that they can then approach agents, editors, publishers, and say, hey, I've got something of value here.
Okay, anyone have any questions about this leg of this discussion?
I know. I'm sorry. We wander off. I have the mind of a squirrel on meth, as somebody once described it. Just look over there, look over there. Oh, look. But that's the great thing about being indie. It's like, if I was working on 3 books at once at one time, not finishing any of them, but that's just, and then one time I decided, all right, we got to finish. I finished one, another book idea came up. I had to write that one, but then I got back to the other 2. And that's why this year, despite how busy it's been, I've gotten 3 books out. Wow. And next year, I hope to get at least 5 out and hopefully more.
Squirrels on meth. Is that why my trees are exploding in my neighborhood?
That's going to be a good title, I think. No, it was a pitch session at a national conference, and you had 2 minutes to give a round table after round table, the entire room, your pitch. And you only have 2 minutes to get your entire life story and your body of work down in 120 seconds. And boy, I nailed it, but you got to talk fast. And this guy looks at me and shakes his head and goes, man, you're like a squirrel on meth.
Well, that whole elevator pitch is so important. And when we did the library event in Chelmsford, basically, if I didn't get my elevator pitch out in like a minute and a half, every single book that I sold that day was because I was able to get the elevator pitch out.
Elevator pitch is like 30 seconds. It's not a minute and a half. The nice thing is, get your 30
I grew
seconds.
up in New York. The elevator rides are much longer.
Yeah, that's a bigger elevator. Get your 30 seconds down cold. Then look at them in the eye and ask if they want to hear more. You're getting feedback. You're soliciting their opinion on if they want to hear more. And if they do, boom, then you give them another 30 seconds. But don't just overwhelm somebody. That's one of the rookie mistakes, Timothy, that you were asking about, is giving them too much. You do very well because you connect with people. You're honest and genuine. And when you talk with somebody about the book, like you said, a lot of them have something in their background that resonates with the theme and the content of your book. books, and they react to that. Yeah, if you're pitching agents, editors, publishers, things like that, 30 seconds tops. They'll either be interested and want to hear more, or they won't. Boom. And either way, you're not wasting anybody's time.
And also remember that, in this day and age, there's Netflix, there's video games. The people that show up and stop at your table or go to your event, they are interested in books and reading, period. Like it's not, they didn't just wander in.
Just so. Yeah. How did they find us in Ipswich? They really had to look.
All right, so before we wrap it up, I definitely want to see if anyone has any questions for you, Dale. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. And, we thank you so much for being here. There's a lot of knowledge that I'm sure I'll be watching this again.
Thank you. I really love helping other writers, and I want to make everybody happy and successful. If they're good people and they've got good content, I want to push that out to the world. Get that out.
All writers have ADHD.
Okay.
I'm sorry. There was a squirrel.
Right. Girl.
Anybody
Thank
else?
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and good luck, and keep writing. And I'm glad that this is a group, because we all need support. We sit by ourselves in a cold room, in the dark, in front of a screen, typing out something we hope will resonate with somebody else around the planet. But remember, we are magicians. We travel through time and space. We could be writing something now that somebody who's not even born yet will read in the future, and it will mean something to them. We're like Doctor Who people. Somebody in another land and another time is going to find our work and know that we were alive and that we mattered. That's magic, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
And rejection is your protection. You just get let go because it's a good thing.
Rejection is nothing, because that's just one person. That's not your bag. I mean, people have rejected the best writers of all time, right? They've all gone through it. That means nothing. That just means it wasn't their jam. So what? Ignore bad reviews, ignore rejections, keep going on to the ones that say yes. Yes, 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 with exclamation points. That's the people to cultivate.
I heard a quote yesterday that